A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to today's news analysis. We are doing the Indian Express Papers Chandigarh edition. Today is 4th of December. Before starting, I would like to tell you we have a Telegram channel, IS Primers, where we are sharing current affairs based MCQs on a daily basis, plus updates from today's news analysis, some important articles, reference material, etc. Now, let us quickly look at the topics that we are covering. Most of the paper today is focusing on BJP winning elections and editorial opinion also. So we can just ignore this. Besides, we have news concerning Maldives, COP28, what is happening, plus something in Philippines, right? And overview about the Indian economy. What are the resistances? What are the challenges? And what are the factors that are pushing the economy? Okay. So coming to the front page now. So BJP wins elections in Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Chhattisgarh. Telangana, the Congress has won, a regional party has lost. Now, what I was noticing while looking at these figures over here, and very important point, that is issues with the first past the post system, right? So you can see the BJP gets 48.55% votes in Madhya Pradesh, Congress gets 40.4%, but look at the number of seats won by both the parties respectively. So hardly a difference of 8.58% vote share, but the number of seats won are disproportionately more as compared to the other party. So the first past the post system does not effectively reflect the vote share. So that is one of the issues. And there have been discussions about why not we shift to proportional representation system also. Right. So this is actually a issue that has been debated previously. So just giving you an overview on this. Now moving on, some takeaways for Modi with respect to elections, all those things. So basic thing is that Modi wave is there. None of the three states that they won, they were winning on the chief ministerial phase. So it was mainly Prime Minister Modi. They got votes on the grounds of that only, the achievements of the center. So that was the basic agenda. So that should be positive for them in the upcoming 2024 elections. Now we are going to look at the news concerning the Maldives. Just a second. Yes. India agrees to pull out soldiers from Maldives, says their new president Muizu. Okay. Uh, so first of all, let us see how in prelims question was asked. So in prelims, they asked which of the following countries lies to the south of 8 degrees channel. So that is how question was asked in prelims. Okay. Now what is the concern? Muizu, who's the president, new president, he got elected by saying he challenged the existing government by saying that he wants India out. There is India military and all, so these should be expelled and sent back to India. It is affecting Maldives' sovereignty. So that is what he said and came to power. So India agrees to this thing. And besides, India has some helicopters and aircrafts which is used for dealing with issue of piracy, for coastal security, etc. So talks are going on with regards to how these assets can remain operational in Maldives. And of course, basic forces would be required for that. And other than this, there will be creation of a core group which will look as to how the cooperation and how the security thing would be managed in the future. So they will look at the way forward. Now, the Maldivian authorities, they more or less agree upon one thing, that they acknowledge the positive role that India plays, and more so with regards to the coastal security aspect, right? So how it helps the Maldives National Defense Force, how it augments its capacity, all those things. So this is a key pillar of India-Maldives relationship. Okay, next. Climate Change Summit is taking place, COP28 in Dubai. And India refrains from signing the pledge. The pledge talked about the following. So one of the things was that we need to increase the renewable energy target by three times by 2030. So that was one of the goals that were set. So this India has already agreed upon prior, so previously. So this is not something very new. So by 2030, renewable energy should be tripled. This will help save 7 billion tons of carbon between now and 2030. So this India is fine with. But the problem was that on one hand it is saying this, but it also says that we need to phase out the use of coal. Phasing out, that is, we will not use coal at all. So the so that meant that India cannot increase, if they agree to this, India cannot agree have new investments or new power plants which are coal based. And as far as India is concerned, 70% and above power that is there, India is still reliant on coal based power plant. So 70 plus percent. Now it is interesting because our renewable capacity is 42% at the moment, renewable energy. But renewable energy is not a consistent stream of electricity. Fluctuations will take place because of the intensity of this renewable sources, for example, sun rays or wind energy. So, dependence on coal is required, and coal is easily available in the country as well. Okay. Now, this coal phase out thing, this was discussed in the Glasgow summit also, COP26. So that time, again, the coal phase out thing was there. And India said that we cannot agree to this. So because of India's deliberations, it became the phase down of coal. That is, reduce the reliance on coal. Okay, so that is why India has not signed this pledge. Again, election related news. You can just scroll through this, all of this. Okay, we'll look at this topic separately. All India Judicial Service. Again, this debate is coming up, so we'll look at this later. Now, moving to the editorial opinion page, same thing, election. Only one thing that I noticed, just I caught my eye, was that they said welfareism has its limits if you want to get votes. So the Congress is basically slow, and they need to have the organizational rigor of the BJP, grassroots presence and all those things. Okay, international section now. Fine, violence has resumed in Gaza. Israel is striking refugee camps in North Gaza, so all that is taking place. US, there is a change in sentiment which can be seen. So Kamala Harris, their vice president, and Lloyd Austin, who is the Secretary of Defense. So they have said that this violence is taking place. So the deaths of the Gaza civilians, right, or the welfare of the Gaza civilians is the moral responsibility of Israel. So somewhere that change can be seen over here. Okay, very interesting development, not a very good development though. Blast in Philippines. Kills for security on high alert after Islamic State takes responsibility. So one thing that we see is that Islamic State threat is always is there, and Islamic State threat is of particular concern because the nature of their organization and the way the attacks are conducted. So you can see Philippines is far away from the Arab part, right? It's on the eastern part over here. By the way, you should look at the maps over here of Philippines since it is there in the news, and you should have a basic idea about the geography. Basic things like Parcel Island is there in the news, Spratly Island is there in the news. So all those things. Okay. So organizationally, it is different in the sense that they depend on lone wolf attack. So Islamic State, what it does is it has this propaganda through social media, etc. It affects certain people. They profile those people, and they send more content to that. So radicalization, people are radicalized with that content, and then those who are radicalized, they are pushed further. They are provided these modules content as to how a toolkit basically as to how the attack can be conducted, how they can inflict violence. So anyhow, any means they can do it. They can run a truck and go into a place where a lot of people are there and run their truck over it, as happened in Germany and Paris. It had happened. So something like that can happen, or just tell them, give a training as to how to make a bomb. So such types of attack are normally done by IS. So they are not like a proper organization as such, but it's a very loose kind of a setup. Anybody can get affected, and then they give the toolkit or basic instructions as to how they can do violence. Okay. Brazil's Lula da Silva, who is the president of Brazil, so he's in Berlin, Germany, for first bilateral talks in 8 years. Okay, so few things. But I mean, are we talking about this, right? That is the thing. Brazil's previous president, Bolsonaro, so previous president, he was far right, and because of his activities, his actions, the relations with the other countries got affected. So Brazil was witnessing a global isolation, right? So Brazil was getting isolated. So Lula da Silva is trying to make amends. He's in Germany. Now, at the same time, Germany's relationship with the global south is a bit affected, right? They want intensification of ties with the global south. So this is a good opportunity for Germany to collaborate. And Brazil is a major country. So Brazil is a key partner, and it also wants to reduce its reliance on China. So that is the issue. Now, something from Kenya, so a place near Nairobi actually. Clean water gets expensive, bucket filters help drought prone Kenya. Now, what I see over here, one is of course Kenya, Nairobi. Basic idea you should have where they are located. It's in east. It's on the Indian Ocean region. So again, that makes it more important. Eastern Africa, and there is a mention of a river known as Athi River. Right. So Athi River is mentioned. So again, prelims type question can be seen from there. Now moving on. So it says piped water is getting expensive. And because of this, of course, they have to rely on other sources of water, which are normally polluted. And because of this consumption, people are getting typhoid and other diseases. Now, why is this piped water getting expensive? We don't talk about this in India. We have metered water connection though, but and bills are also there, but it is very nominal. So why are we concerned? So in Africa, normally we talk about water resources, private investment coming, infrastructure there. So privatization, metered connection will be there. So financially sustainable, but at the same time, many people cannot afford it. And the water, I believe, is expensive. So privatization of public goods, that is one of the issue. Okay. So because of this profit-oriented mindset, welfare is not of much concern. So the welfare of the people has gone down. Now in this return, NGO, there is an NGO, local NGO, which has provided bucket filter. It's basically a normal RO filter, but it is bigger in size. So that filters out water and they consume it, right? Simple. So that is being used. Okay. Economy section now. Headwinds and tailwinds with regards to Indian economy. Tailwinds boost quarter two growth. So what is headwind, tailwind? Suppose this is the person and he's moving in this direction. So this is the headwind. Headwind is wind that blocks you, that makes resistance. Tailwind is one that is pushing you forward. So the reasons for the good quarter two growth, the July-September quarter growth. So the tailwinds primarily are there is good growth in the construction sector, manufacturing sector, and investment growth. So this was seen, and this propelled the GDP. It was more than what was anticipated. They were expecting 6.5% types growth. We got 7.6% GDP, much beyond what we were expecting. And the reason is construction, manufacturing, and investment growth, which is primarily propelled by government's role, government making more investments into the economy. So government is spending more money on infrastructure creation, and because of this, more construction is taking place, more manufacturing is taking place. So economists pointed out the government played the primary role in this. And as a result, the investment to GDP ratio is reasonably high. It is at 35.3%. But now the concern is that this investment is mainly coming from the government, and to what extent will this be successful? Right? It's mainly coming from the government. In an ideal situation, it should be more of private investment, private capital coming to the GDP. So that we are not seeing. So that is one issue of concern. Now, what are the headwinds? So headwinds are the resistance. So one is muted private consumption. Despite government doing all this, we see a muted private consumption. There is slowing farm indicators. If you look at the agricultural sector, the quarter GDP was 1.2%, which is very, very low. These days, we are talking about agri GDP of about 4 to 5%. So we are at 1.2%, which is very low. Now, this is indicative of rural distress. It is also indicated of low wages in the rural sector, because obviously the money is not there. 1.2% GDP is, inflation is at what, 7%. So it is again very low with regards to that. It is actually negative only, more or less. Okay, so that's the problem. And agriculture constitutes about how much? About roughly 45 to 50% of the population. Right, so that is again, so 45 to 50% of the population is witnessing a very, very low growth rate. Manufacturing affects what? 17% of the GDP, 17% of the contributes GDP, and about similar number of people are engaged in that as a share of population. So that's one thing that is of concern. Then central bank rate hikes because of the concerns of inflation. We expect every now and then that the RBI will increase the repo rates, right? It will increase the key interest rates, better word, key interest rates for mains. Okay, so that will happen. Now, if that happens, the cost of capital will increase, and therefore private sector will not be able to invest more. So their share of capital to GDP will come down as compared to that of government. So central banks rates hike, and that is because of inflation, and inflation remains a continuous threat. Now here again, when we talk about inflation, the inflation risk associated with the fuel prices hike. So that is again of concern, right? Fuel and food, and this is unsustainably higher levels. Then one more thing that needs to be looked at is the financial flows in the external sector. How is the money coming in and how is the money going out of the economy? Now, as of now, what we are reading, the money is coming into the economy at the moment. So, more so in the debt sector. Now, today we have 9,000 crore in equity. Now, this is not anything compared to the money that is coming into the debt. Now, sooner or later, this money will also go out. So that is again a problem. Then it also talks about what erratic rain. So that affected the agri GDP also. Okay. Last article, why MPC, the RBI's monetary policy committee, which is responsible for monetary policy, key rate hikes, etc., they are likely to keep the repo rate unchanged. Not read the article because main things we know. We have read the interviews of the governor. So basic things are inflation is expected to come down. And if you look at the inflation also, we have to be mindful of core inflation and headline inflation. Right, so when they say 7% inflation, so that is headline inflation. Core inflation is the core items only, which remains stable. The prices remain stable. Headline includes the volatile items like crude, food items, etc. So high headline inflation is basically because of supply chain constraints and not so much because of monetary policy. So that's not an issue. So thereby RBI is unlikely to change the rates. Next. GDP growth is a agenda, right? So if they increase the inflation, less if they increase the rate hikes, less investments coming, less GDP growth. The private consumption will come down. So that is a matter of concern. In fact, private consumption is also low. Private capital is low, private consumption is low, so that is the issue. So these are the issues because of which the RBI is unlikely to rate the repo change. Okay, so that's it from today's news analysis. Thank you for streaming into our channel, IS Primers, with me, Shubhashish. Bye bye and all the best.